Welcome to Becoming Fearless, the personal growth podcast for you if you are ready to overcome fear and step into your greatness. Our purpose is to help you overcome your limits, have loads of fun along the way, unlocking your fullest potential in life, business, health and relationships every single day. I'm your host, Charlotte Carter, a high-performance coach and entrepreneur with over 20 years' experience. I've supported many highly driven, talented people like you who dream big and are ready to take action to overcome what's holding them back. Each week, my guests and I will be sharing hacks and habits on how to build self-belief, courage and confidence to master your mindset and navigate your emotions so that you can reach your human potential in a way that feels light, fun and easeful and helps you become fearless. Let's go. Hello and welcome to another episode of Becoming Fearless. I am excited to bring you another guest episode with somebody that I met, I don't know how long ago now, but we've remained great friends. We were in another program together that we were both in, and we remained great friends, and we meet up probably like a couple of times a year and just like chat through life, business, everything really. And it's great to have somebody in your world like that. And so it was like an obvious a question for me to ask this guest to come on the podcast and talk about her fabulous work, and also like what she's here to make a stand for and how she helps people in so many ways. So Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself and let people know what it is that you do?
Of course. So hello, everyone. And thank you, Charlotte, for having me. What do I do? I work with parents. I always ask that question, what do I do? It always seems like there's never a quick answer, but I work with parents predominantly who are struggling with their kids' behaviour. So for whatever reason, they might be struggling to connect. They might be finding life challenging. Their child might be finding life challenging. And we help them to feel comfortable as a parent, find their way with it and connect with their child in a way that works for their child so they can help everybody move forward and create the family life they want. We also work with a lot of people who work with families, so social workers, psychologists, people like that, teaching them our approach as well so that they can go out and help families, because the more we can help, the better, is my theory in life. And it's all about connection. It's about heart-led, heart-level connection that really we see the child and the adult. We see the child, we see the adult, we see the behaviour for communication. So what does it actually mean? Why are we communicating in that way? What are we trying to show that maybe we don't have the skills or the knowledge or the words to explain in a different way? So that behaviour might come out in a way that maybe isn't that nice, it's a bit aggressive, maybe it's avoidant. And so we just avoid the world. You know, teenagers hide in their bedrooms to avoid the world sometimes and their emotions, or they might come out literally in fight and flight mode. So it's just helping everybody to know how to cope in that environment so we can help the next generation grow up and achieve their full potential and what they want to do in the world. So in a nutshell, that's what I do.
In a nutshell, I mean, Sarah is absolutely phenomenal. So basically, if you are listening and you are a parent, or if you are listening and you are a professional that helps families and parents, or if you are listening and you're in any type of human connection relationship, keep listening, because Sarah has 1,000,001 threads to how she works with people. And ultimately, I've learned a lot by being in her presence, because it's about relationship building. Her expertise is with parents and families and professionals, but also I just think there's a massive overlap for all of the relationships that we have in life. And the first one that I want to talk about in terms of being brave and being courageous is one that I've talked about a lot, but I want to talk with Sarah about this, is about the relationship that you have with yourself. Because I know when I first became a parent, I was like, oh, okay, I've now got this new role in my world that I had all these ideas, but really it was just shining light on the things that I was good at, and also the things that I was like really not good at and had to learn, and was trying to find this kind of rule book of life, and it was really difficult. And I remember it being a massive awareness piece when you come into a relationship like that, or anything that's new. There's a whole like, who am I in this dynamic? Do you come across that when you first start working with people?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to pick up on what you said a minute ago about relationships, because everything we're teaching is relationships. And, if you're struggling with your connection with your child, often we are struggling with our connection to ourselves, and that can create struggles in our own relationships. So everything we teach, we also help parents to stay connected to themselves. So they are in a relationship with somebody. Everything we teach works with them as well, but also with family, with friends, because it's all about connection, and we all want connection as humans ultimately. And I think you're right. I became, as you know, a mum through adoption. So I had a gorgeous 7-year-old move in. And that was quite a shock to the system, as you say, when you suddenly become a parent. It's very, very different. And I was one of these people, I'd worked around children all my life. I was working in a school at the time. I'd done aid work in a war-torn country after the war. I'd worked with kids in church environment. I'd done so much. I honestly thought this parenting thing can't be that hard. I'll walk this. I get this. I understand this. Well, talk about a shock to the system. My ego took a right old bashing. And I think you do, because you suddenly, that bit of you that, I was single, so I've adopted by myself. And that bit that meant I could just pop to the shops, even just that, or I could just go out and do what I wanted to do. All of a sudden you can't, because you've got a little person, who means that you can't just do those things. And particularly with a 7-year-old suddenly becoming your child, you really can't. And you can do that at any age, but I think we do. I think we struggle sometimes to see ourselves and all of that. We can lose ourselves in trying to do the best for our kids. We can get frustrated and triggered when things don't work. And I think our children are the biggest mirror to the things we might need to look at in ourselves and our own belief system. And I have spent the last 10 years as a mum having to go, okay, right, need to look at that again. Where's my belief come around, I don't know, everything from we should sit at the table every night to have dinner, which never happens in my house, by the way, because it doesn't work for us, to because that's an internal belief, and actually that's part of who you are as a parent or as an adult. And just rethinking everything, but also as they get older, thinking, who am I can be Sarah as well as a mum, as well as a friend and a partner. And I think it's helping people to see that they can be everything. And actually, I think that helps our kids as well. So I'm not saying our whole life shouldn't. Obviously, our kids should be a huge part of our lives. We want them to be, but I do think we need to have a bit of our lives for us as well, as adults and as individuals. Whether that's going off and doing your mad runs that you like to do and getting muddy, or whether that's, I'm more a go out for lunch kind of a girl, but I'll do some yoga. But it's about those things that fulfill us, because if we're fulfilled as the adult, as the parent, actually we can be a better parent and a better, I'm going to say role model. I'm not always sure I like that word, but we can show our children they can do the things that they really enjoy, and still achieve things.
Yeah. I think there's the element, isn't it? It's showing how you show up for yourself is so powerful for the people around you. And that, like, the leader within piece of how you can lead yourself to be able to, like for me, go and do the crazy mud runs, as you call them, do the things that bring me joy, that allow me to connect to myself, allow me to walk with different versions of fear and walk with different versions of achievement, really. That's what they serve me. And finding your version of that is really powerful, isn't it? And finding your courage in all of that. So let's just touch a little bit.
I think it's important to also accept that we can all do different things, and we all enjoy different things, and that's okay.
And that's really key, isn't it? The permission piece.
Yeah.
Permission piece to do it your way.
Absolutely. And I think as parents, a lot of parents that come to us have been, maybe if their child isn't coping like we or society says children should cope. So maybe they're finding school really hard, which huge numbers of children are at the moment, particularly post-pandemic. Maybe they find social interaction hard and they're not really a going out and partying kind of kid. Or maybe they're going the other way and they're out and you're really worried about their safety all of the time. Actually, when we can accept them for who they are and work with them and accept ourselves, we can start to change some of that dynamic and help them feel comfortable in their own skin. And when we feel comfortable in our own skin, we can make judgments that maybe are better for us, are safer for us, and live our true potential rather than being really worried about everything. And I think that also then creates stronger connections. We can have different conversations with our kids and go out and, I was that teen who used to go out sometimes and get very drunk. And I'd have lots of conversations with my parents about staying safe and doing, not doing those things that might put you at risk. And it can be when society says your children should behave like this, and if they're not, you're not doing the right job as a parent, you're not doing it well enough. That level of judgment on us is really hard, I think, to then say, actually, that's not the way I'm going to parent. I'm going to parent in this way because that meets my child's needs. And I know I find it difficult, and a lot of the parents we work with would say the same. There's a lot of judgment and pressure on parenting in a particular way, and children behaving in a certain way and being at school every day and all of those things that we all know as parents are not always that easy. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of the whole kind of like parenting realm comes with just these expectations, societal expectations, and then personal expectations, and then dynamics between the two parents about their upbringing. And there's just like it's a whole mix, isn't it, of relationships that bring you to that moment to making decisions about how somebody else is going to live their life.
Yeah.
So are there common themes?
Sorry, I was going to say, the thing that just came to me when you were talking then, sorry for interrupting, is that idea of, you talk so beautifully about being fearless so much. And I think as parents, we have to be fearless to do the right thing for our kids and for ourselves. And that is where we create happier homes and more connected communities. And, this idea of it takes a village to raise a child, the village has disappeared in a lot of places because people don't know their neighbours, let alone see their family. But actually, we have to be fearless to do the right thing for our kids, I think, as much as we can do.
I love that. Being parenting in a fearless way.
Yeah.
So, are there any common themes, like in the work that you do in all the different strands? Are there any sort of common themes? I'm just thinking about people listening, parents listening, and they're like, oh my goodness, do you know what? I'd just love a calmer household, or I'd love to understand, or I'd love, things aren't going as smoothly as they want. And they're starting to see some patterns, but not necessarily knowing even where to start. Are there themes that you see? Or where would you guide people if they're in that first space?
Yeah, absolutely there are. I think the first thing, and I know that all the families I work with and all the people who follow me on social media are going to laugh if they hear this, is self-care, is looking after ourselves and actually not feeling guilty and doing that thing. Because when things are tough, we all know that sometimes we just keep going. Maybe you're really stressed at work and it's piling the pressure on, and you get home and that stress carries into the home. Well, if we go into the home with that level of stress, we respond differently. We are, or most of us are, more snappy. I know when I'm really stressed, I go into micromanaging mode. I start controlling everything. And as an adult, everyone goes, oh, you're really stressed, you need some support. But that stress response, our children can mirror it. And so then when they start micromanaging it, we might say they're being really controlling, they're not behaving appropriately. That's their stress response. So I think it's modelling that it's good to look after ourselves and regulate our nervous systems and take some time out to relax. That's really important. And doing that with our child and seeing their responses as stress responses. So if you've got a shouty house, let's just go with a shouty house where everyone shouts a lot. The first thing is actually for the adults to go, I'm shouting a lot. How can I stop myself from shouting a lot? We cannot ask our children to do something we're not prepared to do or work on at least ourselves. I know in years gone by, I might have stood at the bottom of the stairs, saying years gone by, Charlotte, still do it now sometimes, stood at the bottom of the stairs and shouted up the stairs, don't shout at me. I'm doing exactly what I'm telling my son not to do. If you want me, come downstairs. Well, I'm shouting that up the stairs to him and probably have just shouted, come down for dinner or something. I've done exactly what I'm telling him not to do. So how can we expect them to do it differently? Because we're literally modelling what we don't want them to do. So if you've got a shouty household, the first thing is or anything happening in your household you don't want to happen, is think about, as the parent, reflect on what your role in that is. Am I staying calm when my child is struggling? And that could be they're becoming avoidant and they don't want to go to school, so they're avoiding school, they're staying in bed. For lots of us, and as a mum who's gone through that, that's really triggering. And it's really hard to stay calm in those moments and see your child's stress and anxiety. The alternative is true. If they're coming out shouting, I'm not going to school, or whatever it is, again, we can end up engaged in that. If we can stay calm, we can help them regulate. We can understand what's going on for them. The whole house becomes quieter, and that gives you space to have conversations and connection, which is my next bit, with our children, to truly understand what's going on for them and help them to understand their own emotions. And I think if we can, we're in our mid to late 20s before we can fully self-regulate. But often we expect children, even 15, 16-year-olds, to be able to just calm themselves down. And they can't. Their bodies are not able to yet. They literally don't have the ability to do that. So they need our help and support. And it's much easier for us to do that if we're looking after ourselves, so we're more calm and regulated. And then we can start gently having those conversations with our child that says, I can see you're really struggling with this. How can I help? How can we work together to find solutions? And I think so often as parents, we feel that we need to maybe find all of the solutions ourselves, but also we can't necessarily see where our child is coming from. So those conversations help us to understand our child's point of view and what's going on for them. Help us to realise we don't have to solve everything. None of us want to see our kids distressed, but we don't have to solve everything. We can work with them to find the solutions. And that's also teaching them problem solving, which is a lifelong skill, and that connection when they've got partners of their own as they're older or children of their own, they'll be so used to those conversations, they just become normal. So when they've had an argument with their other half, they know what to do. Oh, I go right, I have that conversation with them, I de-escalate, I chat about what's going on, rather than it being that elephant in the room that we've all had when we've had an argument with our partners and we sort of ignore it and hope it will just go away. And the more we communicate with our kids, the better, the stronger the bond we create with them and the more skills we're teaching them. And they're going to talk to us more because they know they can do. And they're going to open up more, and then you can help them move forward.
That's I quite often talk about the richness in life, and I think having two teens myself and having a great relationship with them, it's about that richness in life, is that we can have those conversations. We've built a framework where conversations can be had quite openly. Can we talk a little bit, because I think the listeners will enjoy this piece, can we talk a little bit about this whole self-regulation piece, about wherever you are in this dynamic and whatever the relationship is, where it's actually you're either a hothead and you go to anger quite quick, or you go into avoidance, or your pattern, but you don't necessarily know how to, because you've had it for however long, you don't know how to necessarily start regulating yourself rather than just trying not to do it. Are there any tips on that?
Absolutely. It's such an important point, isn't it? Because when we have lived in maybe a state of dysregulation for any length of time, actually it takes our body's time to feel comfortable not living in that stress state. And our kids are the same. We're all physiologically the same, whether we're an adult or a child, pretty much. And so if we have been stressed for a long period of time, I don't know about you, but I know if I've been really stressed and I go on holiday, inevitably I get ill, because your body relaxes and all the stress comes out and you get a cold or you get a headache or whatever. And that's literally our body relaxing. And I think sometimes we need to start, we can either go for that cold turkey effect, go on holiday, relax and come back a bit more de-stressed, but that's not obviously practical for most of us. Little things, 2 minutes, a couple of times a day, just taking some deep breaths, dancing around the kitchen to get the energy moving in your body. I sit still a lot for my work, so I know that in between and throughout the day and in the evening, I need to move. I love a kitchen boogie. You will often find me having a boogie in the kitchen. That just gets the energy moving in my body. It gets the stress out. It releases the cortisol. It kicks in that dopamine hit. I love it. Getting out for a walk. Even if it's chucking down with rain, an umbrella, whatever, get out for a walk and just move. For me, that really helps. Other people, it's going for a run or doing some yoga or reading their book. But it's doing something for them that relaxes them. And knowing that 2 minutes a couple of times a day, or even just once a day, that's all you feel you can manage right now if things are really, really stressful, that's going to start moving things forward. And it's better to do 2 minutes a day than nothing. And yet, absolutely, a day at a spa, amazing, fantastic. But there's no point in doing that once a year if you do nothing for the rest of the year. A little bit every day is going to be so much more powerful. So I would suggest things like breathing. We can all deep breathe. And also, they're brilliant in the heat of the moment. If your child is starting to escalate, if you deep breathe, you can't talk. And that can be quite helpful when your child is escalating, particularly if you think, I sometimes say things I don't mean to say, or I get really cross. Deep breathing in the heat of the moment can work a treat. Writing down or thinking about a couple of positives at the end of the day before you go to bed. There's loads of scientific research around the benefits that has to our mind. We sleep better because we're in a slightly happier place. So we wake up in a slightly better mood. All of those things will impact. And I'm a big believer in gratitude. I love EFT as well because I can tap in the moment or tapping, EFT tapping, whichever you call it. A couple of minutes of that in the morning can help just shift my mood or mindset. Even if I don't really know why I'm tapping, sometimes I just tap and think, not sure, I just don't feel quite right now. And just tap on that and it can release stuff. It's a bit of yoga, a bit of stretching, go for a walk, jump in an ice bath. I know you've got one of those ice baths. Again, not my cup of tea, too cold. But even just turning the shower down to cold, all of those things just help shift the energy and knock us into our relaxation system. And when we're there, we can stay calmer with our kids. We can see their struggles rather than their bad behaviour, if that makes sense. And when we see the struggle rather than deal with the behaviour we're seeing in front of us, we start to really change things and we can respond differently. So I think, for me, it's those things that can just help bring us into a more regulated state. That makes it sound easy, doesn't it, Charlotte? We both know it's not that easy, but those little bits can help.
It is, and I love the way that you've picked up on that because you and I, we've had numerous conversations about lots of topics, and we have a great, rich conversation. And one of the things is, about high performance and about the reality checks of life is that we know these things work. It's about overcoming your self-sabotage patterns, your own fear, your own stuff, and being able to actually implement them every day, isn't it? Being able to create that space, being able to prioritize that space, being able to see the power in that. And I think one of the things that you must see time and time again is when people take these steps that you're teaching these pieces, within a few weeks, sometimes even sooner, I imagine, they start to feel different about themselves. And it's those small refinement pieces that help you navigate all of the things and bring more courage to you changing yourself, changing your dynamics, and being able to step into like a happier, healthier lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I know it's not easy to keep up with the self-care. I'm brilliant at telling other people to do it. And, I ended up with a really bad migraine the other week. And that was me trying to burn the candle at both ends and in a couple of places in the middle all at the same time and forgetting the self-care and thinking I could manage it all. Because you might be feeling better and you're feeling good. And that's for me often when the self-care dips because I'm feeling good, I forget to do so much of it. And you're right. And certainly I've actually just finished running one of our group programs and we had 8 sessions over about 10 weeks, a couple of gaps at half term. And, within a few weeks, literally some of the parents like, the house is slightly calmer. The escalations aren't so bad. Things are definitely shifting, or we're able to get everybody back to a calm state quicker when things do start to escalate. And that's because as parents, we're going into it in a different place. We're going into it calmly. So we've got more capacity in our system to support our child to co-regulate than when we're virtually at breaking point, because then we've got nowhere to go before we explode. And I think the more we can stay calm, and I often talk about being their harbour walls, so being our child's harbour walls and actually being able to, when harbour walls, the ship's in the harbour, the walls keep it safe. They keep the water calm. They keep everything safe. Outside of that can be a force 10 gale going on. If we can be our child's harbour walls by keeping ourselves as regulated as possible, we can help them process their emotion, understand their emotion, and come out of it the other side a lot better than if we join in with the storm. And so when we can regulate ourselves, absolutely, it makes so much difference. But it's not easy, it's not easy. And I see, certainly with my son and other children, we know when we teach these, when we do these skills, and when we do it with our children, they do pick it up. My son can do this with me now. If I'm the one escalating the joys of hormones and all those things, sometimes I like to escalate the argument myself. He will now do what I've been doing with him for years and help me regulate. And I think that's the power of it, thinking, wow, actually, I haven't taught him these things. I've just been doing them. And he can now do it with me, with friends, with other people in such a beautiful way. And isn't that amazing that we can do it without actually teaching it to them,
So powerful. Yeah. So if people have been listening along thinking, oh my goodness, I just need Sarah in my world because there's 10 ton of storms going on at home and I really need some advice and some support, how are the ways that you help people? What are the offers and programs? I know we'll put some details in the show notes, but just let people know a flavour of how they can work with you.
Yes, there's a few different ways depending on what feels right. So to start with, for those people who may be thinking, oh, I'm not sure, it feels really different to me, it feels really strange, because it will do depending on how you're currently parenting. There are a ton of free resources on our website, loads of stuff that you can just start feeling whether it's the right thing for you. Being biased, I would say this is going to help everybody. It does. We work with loads of different families, with loads of different needs, with neurotypical kids, with neurodivergent children, with children trauma backgrounds, everybody. And because it's relationship based, it's going to help because we all want relationships. But go and have a feel around the website if that feels the right thing for you. If you are a parent or carer, we have a membership where you can come and kind of get as much support as you want. That's got lots of training. It's only £15 a month, so it's really affordable, hopefully, for the vast majority of people. And my team and I are in there to help you whenever you need help. I mean, not quite 24/7, but pretty much, we do sleep. But we're there whenever you need it. And it's a brilliant, supportive, vibrant community of parents who are somewhere on their journey to learning this as well. So that's an amazing place to be. If you feel like you need more than that, and some people absolutely do, we do one-to-one support sessions. And some people feel more comfortable, don't they, talking privately and one-to-one, and it feels kind of more relaxed and better. So we can do those. And we can do one-offs or we can do a group of them. If you're struggling, one-off probably isn't going to help you through it, but it might give you some really good ideas to get started at least. We also, for those that like to be in a group, we have a group program that runs over about 4 months, and it's a mixture. So it's 8 group sessions, and then you get 4 one-to-ones at the end of it as well. So you get that time in the group to hear that other parents are going through the same struggles or similar struggles. It may not be exactly the same, but they're having similar struggles, which can help us feel not alone. I think so often we feel alone as a parent. We feel like we must be the only one going through it. I can't tell my friends. I can't tell my family. It's embarrassing. They'll think I'm rubbish. All of those things. So that group program shows that you're definitely not alone. And then you've got the one-to-ones to dive more deeply into any specific problems. The details of both of those are on the website. Obviously, absolutely welcome to get in contact and we can talk about what might be the right options for you, because everybody's different. There's no one size fits all. We don't teach one size fits all when we're working with children, let alone in terms of supporting parents. If you do work with families professionally, we've got some qualification courses that we run as well. And again, those are on the website. So that's more your bag if you're listening to it. From that perspective, we're there as well. So we've got both sides depending on what feels right, and it needs to feel right, it needs to feel right and comfortable.
And go and have a look at the website. I just want to talk a little bit more about Sarah as a person. What she does in this world is absolutely phenomenal. And the impact that you have and the way that you handle yourself and the way that you have built this epic empire of support for yourself, support in your business, the people that you bring in, that you employ, that work in you have exactly the same standards. It's not like, you get Sarah or you get somebody that's not at her level. You get all sorts of people who've got the same heart-led principles. That's a big part of the ethos of the brand. Yeah. But also it's about, when you listen to Sarah and how she explains things, this woman has got great off the scale results with families who were like at the end of their tether in life, really thinking, do you know what, I can't see how the hell I'm going to get out of this. And Sarah has supported many, many, many families like that, and more. And so if you've just got any inkling of any piece around, you know what, I could just do with a little bit of guidance, or do you know what, I mean, absolutely to my neck and I need a whole heap of stuff, Sarah is your woman wherever you are on that journey. So please go and look at the resources. So finally, I just want to ask you about the question that I ask everybody that comes on our podcast, which is about a book that has helped you in your journey around becoming fearless.
Firstly, thank you for those really kind words. They're very, very kind of you to say. Secondly, it's a book by Bessel van der Kolk called The Body Keeps the Score. And it really helped me understand how our body holds memories that we might not have, but also memories we might have. So trauma is particularly focuses on trauma. So whether you are a military veteran who's been in a trauma experience and you're holding all of those memories in your body, or whether you are maybe a child who had a really tough start in life, maybe things happened to you that no child should have to experience, or you've, experienced something as an adult that has created trauma in your body. His book just opened my eyes to really understanding that sometimes we can't talk about our issues. We have to deal with them somatically. We have to do other things. We might not have memories. We might have blocked them. And our responses can be driven subconsciously by what we're holding in our bodies. And so when our children are behaving in a certain way, it's often not a conscious choice, it's a subconscious choice. It's a safety choice. It's a keeping them safe. In the same way as adults, we do the same thing sometimes. Our responses are very much driven by our survival mechanism kicking in. And that, for me, it's kind of, it's one of those books that's often referred to as the Bible in the trauma world, but it really did change me and help me see things differently and say, actually, this is the bit that confirms the way I want to parent is the right way to parent. And I'm stepping out of the norm, in inverted commas, to parent in the way that works for my son. And taking that out to share with everybody. So yeah, that's the book that's made one of the biggest differences to me. So highly recommend reading it. Body Keeps the Score.
It is a very, very powerful book. And I will put the link to that in the show notes as well. So also, I just want to touch quickly on that you work globally, don't you?
We do. Yep, we do. So we support parents from, we've got parents from all over the world, particularly Australia, America, Europe, South Africa, Israel. We're also training colleagues from all over the world, so those who work with families as well. Various times of day and night. So love a bit of, working in the middle of the night with people on the other side of the world. But we do all of that. And what's really interesting is, doesn't matter where you are in the world, relationships. It's all about that. Whatever's going on, we all want relationships. We all want positive relationships. We all want heart-led connection. We're all humans, ultimately. And that goes across cultures, religions, anything else. We all want that connection. We are working across the world, sharing the idea of heart-led connection and relationships, putting that first.
Brilliant. So good. So anyone listening, wherever you are, because I know the podcast is global, wherever you are in the world, please tune in. Sarah's not just UK based. I just wanted to get that bit in. So thank you so much for being my guest today. I've really, really loved it. And I'm sure there will be many, many listeners that have taken a lot from your words of wisdom that can go and drop onto the website and see how there can be some resources to help them and get in touch if they know that that's the next step that feels good for them. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your friendship. And, I just love the conversations we have. And I also massively love the impact that you're here to make.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And right back at you on the friendship thing. So yes, thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. I hope that you're feeling energized, fearless, and inspired to take action today to stand in your greatness. I share even more tools and resources on my I Dare to Leap email newsletter. By signing up, you not only get early access to the I Dare to Leap products and services, but you also get brand new podcast episodes delivered straight to your inbox every Monday, meaning you'll never miss your weekly dose of becoming fearless energy. Sign up now at www.idaretoleap.com/newsletter or click the link in the show notes below.